My stepchildren smirked when I tried to talk about their future, then asked for my credit card. I handed them a canceled statement instead. They never called me Dad. Not once. Not even by accident. I used to lie to myself about that. I'd pretend the small things mattered more. The way Haley texted me when her bike chain snapped on a hill. The way Zach asked me to quiz him before his driving test. I told myself that was closeness. That was trust. That was family. It wasn't. My name is Jason. I'm 44 years old. 8 years ago, I married Amber and became something adjacent to a father for her 2 kids. Zach was 12. Haley had just turned 10. They were polite enough in the beginning. I was the man who made their mother smile again. The one who carried groceries, fixed the leaky faucet, taught them how to pump gas and calculate a tip. I was the one who stayed. Their father, Brett, was a ghost wrapped in cologne. He lived in Vegas. Showed up twice a year with shiny sneakers, movie tickets, and stories about casinos and concerts. He played the role like it was a highlight reel, dropping in for holidays and vanishing before the dishes were washed. He never paid child support on time. Sometimes he didn't pay at all. Amber shrugged, said he was doing his best, said the kids needed him around, even if it was just for show. So I filled in the blanks. I woke up for early band practices and drove an hour each way to soccer tournaments. I picked up antibiotics when they were sick, kept a drawer full of backup school supplies, and coached Zach through his first heartbreak with a carton of Rocky Road and a silence that held more empathy than words ever could. When their school needed donations for the library fund, I wrote the check. When braces came, I opened a new line of credit. When Haley's iPad cracked, I replaced it before she even asked. And I started a college fund. Quietly, without ceremony, without a single thank you. Every month I deposited what I could. It wasn't much in the beginning, but over time, it added up. $100 here, $250 there. Refund checks, bonuses, tax returns. I funneled it all into a single account marked only with their names. It was supposed to be the gift I never got: freedom, options. A clean start without debt hanging over them like a curse. They never knew. I wanted it to be a surprise. That was the first mistake. Amber wasn't much help when it came to discipline. She had this way of smiling through discomfort, of smoothing over conflict with a joke or a change of subject. When the kids snapped at me, she looked away. When they ignored me, she pretended not to notice. She wanted peace, not resolution, and I gave it to her. I let the little things slide. I swallowed the small humiliations, the rolled eyes, the quiet mockery, the way Haley started referring to me as the roommate when talking to her friends. I told myself it was just adolescence, that they'd grow out of it, that love, when steady enough, softened even the hardest hearts. But it didn't. By the time Zach turned 18, the distance between us was a chasm. He'd started spending weekends with Brett, coming back with new shoes and vague stories about opportunities. Haley had discovered TikTok, and I found out, through a coworker's daughter of all people, that she'd been making videos mocking me. Nothing too direct, just little things. The way I mispronounced memes, how I asked them to put their phones down during dinner, how I always wore socks inside the house. Millions of views, thousands of likes. Strangers calling me a busk *LL, a boomer, a sad man clinging to someone else's family. I confronted her once. She shrugged. "It's just a joke," she said. "Don't be so sensitive." Amber told me not to make it a big deal. "It's just social media," she said. "They're kids." But I wasn't a joke. I wasn't a placeholder. I wasn't a sad man. I was a man who had sacrificed time, money, and pride to make this family whole. And I was tired. That night, it was 2 weeks after Zach's birthday, I made dinner. Grilled chicken, mashed potatoes, salad. Nothing fancy, just something warm. I set the table, poured drinks, lit a candle. I had the folder in my lap the entire time. The college costs, financial aid options, notes from my last conversation with the admissions office. I waited until after the plates were cleared. "I wanted to talk about college," I said, sliding the folder onto the table. "I've been putting money away for both of you. We should figure out which schools make the most sense." I was nervous, like I was pitching something they might reject. My hands trembled just a little. Zach leaned back in his chair and looked at Haley. She didn't say anything, but her lips curled into that smirk I'd seen too many times. And then Zach said it. "Shouldn't this be something our real parents talk about?" He said it with a smile, like it was clever, like he was proud of himself for finally voicing what he'd been thinking all these years. I waited for Haley to flinch, to push back, to look uncomfortable. She didn't. She nodded. Then she picked up her phone, opened an app and said, "Can I just get your card? I want to register before the early deadline." Like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't just been erased from the table. Amber froze. I looked at her, waiting for something. Anything. Correction. Protest. A defense. She didn't move. That's when I knew. Everything I gave was just expected. Not appreciated. Not earned. Just taken. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I didn't explain myself like a child trying to justify his place. I stood up, walked to the side drawer, pulled out a printed bank statement, slid it across the table face up. It showed the college fund. Nearly $90,000. Beneath the balance, one word in red. Canceled. I watched their eyes scan it. Confusion turned to shock. "That's not fair," Haley said, voice rising. "You can't just do that," Zach muttered. Amber opened her mouth, but I cut her off. "I can," I said. And I did. Then I walked out of the dining room. Upstairs, I could hear Zach stomping, Haley yelling, Amber calling my name. But I closed the bedroom door, sat on the edge of the bed, and breathed. 8 years of showing up. 8 years of quiet sacrifices. 8 years of pretending I was building something that would one day love me back. Turns out I was just the ATM with a last name they refused to take. And that night I finally understood. If I'm not their father in their eyes, I'm not their bank either. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat on the edge of the bed, elbows on knees, staring at the closed door like it could answer for them. I could still hear them downstairs. Not voices anymore, just the soft clink of dishes, the creak of chairs being pushed back, Haley's phone buzzing every few minutes with the rhythm of teenage judgment. Maybe she was already turning it into another TikTok. Another joke about the man upstairs who thought love could be bought with spreadsheets and savings accounts. The bank statement sat on the table like a ghost. Nearly 90 grand. 8 years of discipline. Gone in one click. It wasn't rage that pushed me over the edge. Rage is noisy, sloppy. What I felt was colder. A clean severing inside me. Like a rope that had frayed for years finally gave way with a soft snap. I stood, walked to the dresser, pulled out the lockbox with my documents. Birth certificate, passport, will, and tucked at the bottom, a little blue notebook with every login and password I'd kept. I sat down again and flipped it open. The college accounts were first. I logged in, closed both 529 plans, transferred the funds into a high-yield savings account in my name only. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt done. Next, I opened Amber's shared insurance policy. Removed myself as the primary payer on both Zach and Haley's medical and dental. I left them covered, just not by me. If Brett wanted to play dad, he could play provider too. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I called Brett. His number was still saved in my phone. An old habit from the early years, when we'd pass the kids back and forth and pretend we were all mature enough for civility. He answered on the 4th ring, voice groggy with the kind of hangover that's more lifestyle than accident. "Yeah, it's Jason." Pause. "Oh, hey. I'm stepping back," I said. "College fund is done. Medical, too. They're adults now or close enough. It's time you handled what's yours." Another pause. Then a chuckle like I was joking. "Come on, man. You know I'm not set up for all that. I mean, what even happened?" I let silence answer him. After a beat, he sighed. "You're serious?" "I am. I thought you were the guy who stepped up. That's what Amber always said." Could have laughed. Could have screamed. But instead I said, "So step up." Then I hung up. No anger. No explanation. Just boundaries with a receipt. The next morning, I made coffee, toasted a bagel, fed the dog. When Amber came down, she was cautious, like she was approaching a fuse that had already burned down to its last spark. "Can we talk?" I nodded, sat across from her at the kitchen island while the toaster clicked behind us. She didn't ask why I'd canceled the accounts. She already knew. Instead, she went into soft damage control. Phrases like, "Kids don't always think. They're still figuring it out. Maybe they didn't mean it that way." I listened, stirred my coffee, watched the steam curl. "They said it clearly," I finally said. "They meant it." Amber's eyes shimmered. Not with guilt, something else. Realization, maybe. Or loss. "They're scared," she said. "They didn't expect." "No," I said. "They expected me to take it. Like I always have." She went quiet. That was the last real conversation we had for days. Zach found out first. 2 weeks later, a thick envelope from the university arrived. He tore it open at the counter, read the letter, and went pale. "Enrollment canceled," he said, almost to himself. "They didn't get the deposit." Amber looked at me. I kept washing the dishes. Brett had gone dark. No calls. No wires. No help. Haley found out when her housing email bounced. Her dorm slot had been reassigned due to lack of confirmation. She called the admissions office, hung up, then stomped into the kitchen. "Did you forget to submit the forms?" she asked. I turned off the faucet, dried my hands. "I didn't forget." She stared at me, like she couldn't believe it, like I'd broken some silent rule. "You promised," she said. "I did, when I thought we were a family." She flinched. Amber stepped between us. "Can we just talk? All of us?" I shook my head. "I've said what I need to say. Now it's Brett's turn." That night, the house felt like a motel. Everyone behind separate doors, quiet except for the ticking clock in the hallway. Even the dog seemed confused. The next few days were a blur of texts and half-hearted apologies. Zach sent one that just said, "Wasn't trying to disrespect you. Just wanted time with my dad." Haley's was longer. She said she felt betrayed, that she didn't understand why I'd give up on them. I didn't answer either one, because I hadn't given up. I'd given what I had, and now I was finally done pretending they deserved more. I wasn't punishing them. I was believing them. They said I wasn't their parent, that I had no place in those decisions. So I stepped aside, let their real dad carry the weight. Only he didn't, and now they were drowning. Amber tried again. She sat beside me on the couch one night, her voice low. "I called Brett. He's not helping. He said it's on us." I said nothing. She reached for my hand. I let her take it. "I see it now," she whispered. "You were the only one who ever showed up." It wasn't an apology. It was an obituary. Because by the time she saw the truth, the damage was done. I'd already buried that version of myself. The man who begged to be seen. The one who believed effort could replace blood. The man who wanted their approval more than his own dignity. That man was gone. The next morning, I opened the old college folder one last time. Where there used to be spreadsheets and statements, there was just silence. A blank manila shell. Closed it. Placed it in the bottom drawer of my desk. Locked it. Then I got on with my life. I walked the dog. Fixed the fence. Cleaned the gutters. And every time the phone buzzed with a new plea, I ignored it. Because love without respect isn't family. The servitude. I thought they'd forget. That after a few weeks, the fury would settle. The calls would stop, and they'd move on with their lives. I was wrong. The texts came first, Haley mostly. Wall after wall of frustration disguised as hurt. Screensh *TS of housing waitlists. Missed deadlines. Group chats with her new roommates falling apart one by one. "You said we were family." Those were her words. It sat in my inbox like a snare. I didn't reply, not because I didn't care, but because I had cared too much, too long, too one-sided. Then came Zach. He didn't text. He showed up. I was out back, sanding the deck boards Amber had asked me to fix months ago. The wood was splintering near the steps. One more summer and the whole thing would buckle. I was halfway through replacing the rail when I heard footsteps on gravel. Zach stood at the edge of the yard, hands in his pockets, face drawn. "Hey," he said. I nodded. Didn't stop working. He stepped closer. I wanted to talk. About what I said. I kept sanding. The air smelled like cedar and regret. "I didn't mean it like that," he added. Dad said he wanted to reconnect. I thought maybe if I gave him space, we could." He trailed off. I looked at him finally. His eyes were tired. Not angry anymore. Just tired. "You made it clear I'm not your parent," I said. He flinched. Not because it was cruel, but because it was true. "I'm not here to beg," he muttered. "Just wanted to say I get it now." I nodded once. Went back to the rail. He stood there another minute. Then turned and walked away. I didn't call after him. Later that night, I found Amber in the living room. She was sitting on the floor, a glass of wine in one hand, an old photo album open in front of her. She didn't say anything when I walked in. The photos were from 5 years ago, Haley's middle school graduation. I remembered that day. I'd left work early, bought her a silver charm bracelet and wrapped it in her favorite color. She didn't wear it once. Amber traced the edge of the photo with her finger. "I used to think if we gave them everything, they'd become grateful," she said. "They became entitled," I replied. She didn't argue. "I should have backed you up more," she whispered. "Should have corrected them, made them see." "It's not your job to make them see," I said. "It was theirs to notice." She looked up at me then, eyes rimmed red, voice soft. "They need you." "No," I said. "They need a bank." And I closed mine. She didn't speak after that. The silence between us became another tenant in the house. It moved in quietly, settled on the sofa, joined us at dinner. We spoke less, touched less. It wasn't resentment. It was mourning of what we thought we had, what we thought we built. Haley tried one last time. She printed out a photo, her acceptance letter, dated and signed, and taped it to the fridge. No words, no context, just the image like a ghost of what could have been. I took it down the next morning, folded it, slid it into the drawer with the college folder. Not out of spite, but for closure, because sometimes love looks like sacrifice, and sometimes it looks like silence. I didn't attend Zach's college orientation, didn't help Haley register for backup classes. I watched them scramble, plead, hustle. Brett was a no-show. Amber covered what she could, but it wasn't enough. Suddenly their safety net had holes, and they felt it. For years, I'd been the invisible structure holding them up. Now they could feel the air rushing in. Haley picked up a job at a cafe, texted Amber about budgeting. Zach applied for student loans late with terrible interest. Amber cried in the bathroom one night, thinking I couldn't hear. But I did, and I still said nothing. Then came the day the school called. A woman with a soft voice, some admin from Zach's program. She said he'd missed a tuition deadline again, that he'd applied for emergency assistance, that they needed family financial info to approve it. "I'm not family," I said and hung up. It wasn't cold. It was honest. Because when they said I had no rights, what they really meant was no authority, no voice, no say in their future until it broke. Amber stopped trying after that. She no longer asked me to reconsider. No more quiet pleas after dinner. No more trying to bridge the gap. She started going to bed earlier. Stopped making coffee in the mornings. We became polite strangers sharing a mortgage. And I felt light. Not happy. Not free. Just light. Because the burden I carried, the guilt, the effort, the need to prove I belonged was gone. They'd made their choice. And I finally let them live with it. It wasn't punishment. It was reality. You don't get to call someone a stranger, then ask them to co-sign your life. Zach showed up again weeks later. Dressed for a job interview. Tie crooked, hair too short. "Just wanted to say thanks," he said, "for everything you did before." I didn't get it then. I nodded. He held out his hand. I shook it. He didn't ask for money. Didn't bring up school. He just left. Amber watched from the porch. When the door closed, she turned to me, her voice barely above a whisper. Now I see who their real father was. It wasn't flattery. It was confession. And I didn't say a word. Just walked to the office. Opened the drawer. Looked at that empty folder one last time. Then I closed it. Literally. Removed my info from their FAFSA. Deleted my name from every tuition form. It was done. They were on their own. Not because I didn't love them, but because I finally loved myself more. And maybe that's the hardest lesson of all. That sometimes the most generous thing you can do is step away. Let the people who mistook your devotion for obligation feel what it's like when you're gone. Not out of revenge, but out of respect. For yourself. A year passed. The house stayed quiet longer than I expected. No calls. No visits. No emergencies disguised as reconciliations. Amber and I lived like co-tenants. Split chores, split bills, split silences. We didn't fight. We didn't talk much either. What we shared was a ghost, of effort misplaced, of a family stretched too thin to hold weight. The photo came on a Wednesday. I found it in the mailbox, no return address. Just a plain envelope, the kind you'd send a check in. I brought it inside, sat at the kitchen table and opened it. Inside was a photo of Zach in his graduation gown. Black cap, crooked tassel, sun too bright in his eyes. He stood next to a folding chair, not on a stage. No crowd, no banner. Just him, alone, with a cardboard sign tucked under one arm. I made it. There was a note clipped to the back. Took longer, but I paid for it myself. You helped more than you know. That was it. No apology. No plea. No request for more. Just acknowledgement. I stared at the photo longer than I meant to. It wasn't pride I felt. Not quite. It was something deeper. Quieter. Not victory. Not closure. Just something like air in the lungs after a long time drowning. I got up, walked to the drawer where the old college folder had been. It was empty now. Just paper clips, receipts, outdated forms with my name scrubbed from every line. I slipped the photo inside. Not to hold a grudge. Not as proof, but as memory. Because that's what it had become. Zach had made it, and he hadn't asked for my hand. He had finally learned the thing I tried to teach them in silence. Self-respect doesn't come from a signature on a check. It comes from standing when no one shows up. That night, I didn't tell Amber. She was reading on the couch, a glass of wine in hand, eyes tracing lines she wouldn't remember by morning. We hadn't spoken about the kids in weeks. Months, maybe. They were hers now. In the way people mean it when they say mine and leave the room. And I didn't resent that. I didn't want them back. I didn't want to be needed again. I just wanted to remember that I had tried. And that trying didn't make me weak. The next day, Haley called. I almost didn't answer. Her name lit up the screen like it didn't belong there. I stared at it for too long. Finally picked up. "Hey," she said, voice small. "It's me." "I know," I said. She paused. Then, "I got a job. Real one this time. Benefits. Manager's training starts next month." I waited. I just wanted to say, "I get it now. About what you did. What you gave." Another pause. "I was cruel. I know that. I didn't see it then. I thought love meant unlimited chances. That you'd always just be there." Her voice cracked. "I'm sorry." Not loud. Not theatrical. Just honest. I didn't speak for a while. Then I said, "Thank you." She didn't ask for money. Didn't ask for help. She just said, "That's all. I just wanted you to know." And hung up. I stared at the wall after that. Not because I was overwhelmed, but because I didn't know what to feel. They had learned the lesson. Too late to fix what was broken, but in time to rebuild something else. Amber and I didn't make it. By the fall, she was sleeping in the guest room more often than not. We'd become courteous, efficient, but we weren't partners anymore. We were artifacts. One night, she stood in the doorway of the bedroom, said she was moving in with her sister, just for a while. I didn't stop her, didn't ask where that left us, because I already knew. We were a family stitched together with obligation. And those seams had finally come undone. I stayed in the house, kept up the yard, paid the bills, walked the dog, and some nights I'd open that folder, not to grieve, just to remember. Zach's photo, Haley's note, the bank statement with canceled, stamped across it like a verdict. 8 years of showing up. And when the bill came due, I finally said no. And in that no, I taught them more than I ever could by saying yes. That love without boundaries is not love. It's martyrdom. That respect can't be demanded, only chosen. That presence alone is not enough. I used to think that being a father meant sacrifice. That if I just gave more, endured more, forgave more, it would all click into place. But I see it now. Being a father means being seen, being valued, not just used. Zach and Haley saw it too eventually, but only after the silence. Only after the doors closed. Only after they were forced to stand on ground they thought I'd always hold for them. I don't regret what I gave. I regret how long it took me to stop. Now, when people ask if I have kids, I say, not by blood. I don't explain further, because that's enough. They were mine once, not in name, not in genes, but in every bill paid, every hour lost, every quiet moment when I showed up, knowing I might never be seen. They were mine, and then they weren't, and that's okay, because what I gave didn't vanish. It built something in them even if it took too long to show. Zach graduated. Haley found purpose, and I found peace, not in their forgiveness, not in their regret, but in my own boundaries, in the power of walking away when love turns into a leash. So now I'll ask you, was I wrong? Was I wrong to draw the line when they crossed it? Was I wrong to close the account when my love became their expectation? Was I wrong to let them fall when they pushed me out of the picture? Or was this the only way left to teach them that every dad comes with weight, and the man carrying it deserves more than silence? Would you have endured it? Or would you have done what I finally did? Stand up, step back, and let them find out who really held the foundation of their lives all along.